Didn't you work at a strip club? As I was taking an order from a customer, he suddenly asked, looking at me curiously, as if he was trying to recognize me from somewhere. His question turned the heads of the other employees in my direction, which made me feel embarrassed. "I'm sorry, sir. I think you're mistaking me for someone else. Your total is $13.97. So, do you want to pay through cash, card, or online?" I tried to avoid any further questions and hurried with his order. Looking at the long line behind him, he didn't say anything else and just went back to take a seat. But while he was sitting there, he continued staring at me, which made me feel uncomfortable. I had put my past life behind me and did the unthinkable to hide it from everyone so that I can live a decent life peacefully. But if someone reveals it like this, it would ruin everything that I had worked so hard for. I used to work at a strip club in Las Vegas a few years back before I moved to New York. And even though I only did stripping for only a few months or so, the stain of being this kind of girl just doesn't go away. Society doesn't look at the girls who used to strip naked to earn money the same way they do to others. So I had no other choice but to hide my unpleasant past to start anew. But that past I tried to erase had come back to haunt me. Why is he still not leaving? I bit my lips out of anxiousness. The way he was still staring while sitting there even after finishing his food was making me feel even more uneasy. But I still tried my best to ignore the man and continued working. Whenever our eyes met, he would smile at me like we were some old acquaintance or something, and it was starting to get on my nerves. He didn't wait much longer, though, and left after an hour or so. That made me feel relieved. But when I got off work and was walking back home, I noticed him waiting for me around the corner of the antique store. I wanted to turn back, but that would only confirm his suspicions, so I continued walking. "Are you sure we haven't met before?" He blocked my way and asked as he leaned to my face level. I swear I wanted to punch this creep, but since I did not want to create a scene, I tried to walk away from him. But he didn't let me and continued to block me. "Let's not do this, darling. We both know I'm right about you being a stripper. Now, if you don't want the little image that you have maintained here to get ruined, you'll quietly follow me." As he said that, I looked around and saw a few people from work looking at me, wondering who this man was. "Yes, sure, sir. I'll show you where the nearest subway is, since I'm headed the same way." Filled with indignation, I said this a little louder for them to hear and started walking with him. I could see the nasty smile on his face that was infuriating me, but I controlled my maniacal urges and followed him silently. The place he was leading me to did not look like a good neighborhood. There must be at least 5 abandoned houses we passed, and the people walking in the area looked shady as hell. "Where do you think you're taking me?" I finally opened my mouth to ask him that. The bastard looked at me with his foul smile and said, "You'll know soon. And if you don't want your little secret exposed, you'll keep following me." I clenched my fists, controlling my homicidal tendencies, and gave him the fakest smile I could. He led me inside the building, and when we entered an apartment that resembled a garbage can, he locked the door behind us. I turned to look at what he was doing, and as I predicted, he lunged at me in an attempt to rip my clothes, which I successfully managed to avoid. He must be delusional into thinking I followed him because he had the upper hand on me, but he had no idea what my true intentions were, and foolishly led me to a neighborhood filled with crimes. How dare this evil-smelling, malicious man try to take advantage of me? Does he think I'm an easy target just because I used to work at a strip club? I muttered in a barely audible voice, thinking how cruel fate is to women. "What did you just say?" he asked in a pissed tone, which made me look him in the eye and sigh a bit louder before speaking. If you know me, then you probably know Bill too, right? I looked directly into his eyes. Are you talking about the manager of the club? He replied hesitantly. Do you want to know how he died? He took a step back as he saw the maniacal expression on my face. Oh, I did not want to do this anymore, but it's bad that I have to kill you now. As I said that, I noticed him getting ready to escape, so I kicked him behind the knees, making him fall on all fours, and then I rushed at him, putting him in a headlock. Please don't hurt me. I swear I would stay quiet as a mouse. I won't tell anyone about any of your secrets. So please, let me go. I glared at him for a few seconds before bursting out in laughter. I couldn't believe this idiot thought I'm doing this because of my secrets. That is not why you're going to die, I whispered in his ears as I stopped laughing. He was about to turn back, but before he could say anything else, I twisted his neck in a swift motion and broke it. As I released him from my grip, he fell lifeless on the ground. It was comical that his last thought must be why he was getting killed without even realizing it was because he tried to take advantage of a helpless girl with her past as an excuse. These are the times when being the daughter of a gymnast and a martial artist pays off, but they'll never know what I have been doing with the skills they taught me. I knew I was going to get caught this time, but I didn't care. Even left the body as it was lying around in the middle of an abandoned apartment building. As I was walking back, I didn't feel bad or troubled. Instead, I was calm, knowing that I was going to live my life to the fullest until they come and get me. Enough running. This time I was going to face my fate head on, since it has decided to play this cruel game with me wherever I go. And in case I get away again, I was hoping not to kill anyone ever again. And it wasn't like I did those crimes because I wanted to. No, it's people like them who bring out the monsters in someone like me.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so.
Kidnapped. I was hammered the other night, partying with the guys when I heard someone shout, "Let's order some more booze." I looked in that direction, and I think it was Chester. He was my ex-boyfriend, and I have no idea when he got here, so I was a bit confused. Maybe I was imagining him being here. I tried to get up and walk to the bathroom, but I stumbled and was caught by someone before I could fall. Whoever it was, I couldn't recognize him due to my drunken state. But I could tell that he had a jacked body as I touched his chest. I heard a faint voice asking if I was okay before I completely lost all my senses. The next morning, I woke up from a thirst along with a throbbing headache. It almost felt as if I was hit by a rock or something. I tried to look around to find some water, only to realize the unfamiliar surrounding I was in. This wasn't my room. Where in the world was I? Wondering all that, I tried to get up, only to get dumbstruck by another realization. I was naked. I looked around and there was no one else beside me, while my clothes were all over the room. Did I? I shook the thought and started getting dressed up, and then walked out of the room. I remembered partying with my friends, Jack, Sarah, and Henry, and there was Sarah's boyfriend too, but I didn't remember much after getting drunk. How in the world did I end up in someone's bedroom? Did they let me go home with someone else in a drunken state? As I walked down the stairs, thinking of exiting the house, I heard a clicking sound, so I hid while trying to get a peek at who it might be. A well-formed man with olive skin and black hair entered with a McDonald's bag in his hand, and after closing the door, he looked in my direction. Since he had already noticed me, there was no use in hiding, so I got out and told him that I would be leaving. "I don't think so." A mesmerizing, husky voice invaded my ears as he grabbed my hand and yanked me in front of him as I tried to pass by him. What do you think you're doing?" I asked in frustration as I looked into his steel gray eyes. "Finish this first, then we will talk." I won't lie, I was intimidated by him as he gave me command and walked away, but it exasperated me. There was also distress building up, so if I wanted to escape this place safely, I had to do exactly as he said. I took a seat and started devouring the double quarter pounder that he had brought me along with some friends, and since I was already hungry and hungover, I fished everything. Judging by the surrounding, the guy was in his room, so I walked to the front door and tried to open it, only to find it locked. Now, this situation was getting rather unnerving. Why would he do something like that? I understand that I may have gotten carried away last night since I was intoxicated, but he must have known that. This was getting frightening. What was he planning to do? Was he some sort of psychopath who was going to keep me locked in this house? I started imagining all kinds of nerve-wracking scenarios where I could picture something horrible happening to me. There was no way I was going to let this creep have his way, so I tried to look around to find something to use for my defense when my eyes went to cat-shaped ceramic decor. I was startled right after picking it up when I noticed him standing at the end of the hallway while carefully observing me. He didn't look surprised or angry and started walking in my direction. "What do you want?" I barely managed to get those words out when he grabbed the decor from my hand and placed it back in its place. "I was hired to sleep with you, film you, and then ruin you. But before I could do anything, you threw up on me and ruined my mood," he said in a calm, low-toned voice that sent shivers down my spine. "Hired?" I stuttered. It almost felt like a knot was forming in my throat. My steps automatically started backing away from the guy, and tears started to build up out of panic. But instead of doing anything, he sat on the couch and took out his phone without making eye contact with me. Here, the guy was drunk, but he still saved his number in my phone. He showed me the screen, and I could recognize this number anywhere. It was Chester. "Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you anymore. I was also drunk last night when I saw you partying with your friends. You seemed hot, so I was going to ask for your number. But then the guy said you were a cheating whore who sleeps with multiple guys and tries to act all righteous, high and mighty in front of the others. He told me he would pay me $1,000 if I did this, so I accepted." The more he spoke, the more angst I was feeling. "Please, just let me go." He flinched as I said that. He slowly got up from the couch while putting his phone back in his pocket and walked toward me at a hair-raising pace. Before I could run away, he grabbed me, threw me on his shoulders, and took me back to the bedroom I woke up this morning. As he threw me on the bed, his steel gray eyes stared straight into my soul, and the look he had was of a maniac. That was when I realized not all handsome, dreamy-looking men come out of fairy tales that we all have heard throughout our childhood, or the situation from a drama or comic where a drunk girl ends up in the same room as a handsome man, and the two of them end up falling in love with each other. The look he had at that time when he was glaring at me was not someone a girl would want to be with. It was terrifying enough to make me shake in my shoes. And as he started closing up the distance between us, it was sending me into cold sweat. He grabbed a fist of my hair and said while pulling it, "I said I won't do anything to you, nor was I ever planning to do what the jerk said. But I never said I would let you go." As he said this with chilling low tones, his deep and husky voice wasn't mesmerizing anymore. Instead, it penetrated my ears like nails on a chalkboard, as it filled me with terror.
A little background on me. I'm a 19-year-old male and I was traveling with my girlfriend. We were on a road trip to visit my grandparents who lived a few states away. They said we could stay at their place for a few weeks over the summer, and it seemed like a no-brainer because they lived on the beach. The path to getting there, though, was really long, and it was a painful drive. My girlfriend and I both disliked driving, but we figured that we could take turns and it wouldn't be so miserable. I think the total time on the road was about 10 hours. We were about 5 hours into the drive when we decided to stop off at a rest stop. I'm not going to lie to you. We stopped quite a bit. I'm a little compulsive with drinking water because I like to stay hydrated. As you might imagine, there are some consequences of being hydrated. It irritated my girlfriend, but not very much. I think she secretly liked that we were stopping on my sake and not hers, because she always seemed to buy something every time we stopped. This one rest area was not horrible or anything. It wasn't in a bad area or anything like that. It seemed like a very typical, safe rest stop. But this is where one of the most horrifying experiences of my life took place, at least the first part of it. This has simply been one of the many times when I had to pull off the road to go pee. When I saw that there was also a McDonald's near this one rest area, I decided to wait until we got there. I normally don't eat McDonald's, but I let myself do it on special occasions like road trips. It makes the drive go by a little better, even if it makes my stomach feel like garbage. So, I went to the bathroom and she bought more cigarettes. We had already made our way to the McDonald's when we had our first appearance with Creepy Guy. We actually did talk to him a little bit. Let's call him Joe. Joe may have been the strangest looking man I'd ever laid my eyes on. He looked like he didn't come from this country or something. And not on a racial basis or anything, he just looks like he had a completely different lifestyle, as if he lived off the land and had never used electricity. His beard went all the way down to his stomach, and if you looked at it for long enough, you could see food particles in there, and some of them not even from a meal that he had eaten that day. So that should give you a good idea of his level of cleanliness. The rest of his outfit followed suit. A dark pair of jeans that look like they hadn't been washed in a decade, and a large leather jacket that looks like the oldest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure it actually wasn't that old, but it had a timely appearance to it due to it being in such poor condition. Anyway, we spoke to Joe because he awkwardly sat next to us at McDonald's. I thought this was extremely strange, and it definitely weirded me out. I'm an introvert by nature, and talking to people is extremely taxing. My girlfriend is an extrovert and always attracted people that were interested in conversation. I just found it strange because I've never had someone randomly sit at the same table as me when they were complete strangers. I figured that it was because my girlfriend attracted talkers, but looking back, it was probably because we appeared to be easy targets. Joe sat down right next to my girlfriend and started asking us where we were going. My girlfriend, being the optimistic and unsuspecting person that she is, gave him the entire story, that we were basically 5 hours away from anyone that we knew in any direction. I tried to give her a look that she needed to shut up, but she didn't get the hint. We had already ordered our food and we were eating when he sat down. He didn't order anything. He just invited himself to our table and talked to us for the entire time we were there. At first he was rather polite, but had a really thick accent that didn't seem like it belonged anywhere. I couldn't tell you where the accent came from because I've never heard anything like it in my life. And this is coming from someone who knows plenty of people from the North, Midwest, the South, Australia, and anywhere else. This accent just didn't seem like it came from Earth. After a painful experience of trying to get away from Joe, we got back in our car and started up on that journey again. As we got to our car, I also noticed that Joe had gotten into his car as well. As we had pulled out, Joe was a good distance away from us. I thought this was extremely strange, and the warning sign in my head went from flashing to high alert. I knew that we were in some kind of danger. I was driving and I tried putting the pedal to the metal. The next half hour or so, I had probably sped more than I did my entire life. I was normally a really safe driver, but this guy was really freaking me out. I tried telling my girlfriend that this guy was tailing us, but she didn't believe me. She thought I was just being paranoid. But what are the odds of seeing this guy at a gas station and then him being behind us for 30 minutes after we got on the road? She told me to pull over at the next rest stop and we would know for sure if he was trying to do us harm. Stupidly, that's exactly what I did. And my worst suspicion was true. He pulls off at the same rest stop and parked right next to us. My adrenaline was rushing as I got ready to fight this guy. I didn't know what else I could do. I told my girlfriend to call the police and then I got out of the car. He was easily a foot taller than me, and he was a little older and probably not in the best shape. I had the benefit of being an athlete wannabe at my college. I did all the intramural sports stuff like that, so I was in pretty decent shape, but none of that mattered when Joe pulled out a knife. The understanding that he was out to do us harm and I was going to have to fight him. I waited for him to approach. About 30 seconds went by before he started walking in my direction. My heart was pounding. I started screaming every insult that I could. I called him a degenerate and an old man who was in way over his head, and then I was about to whoop him. It didn't scare him, though, and when he got within 10 feet of me, I thought it would be a good idea to tackle him. I was hoping to take him by surprise, but I didn't. I tried getting him off of his feet and onto the floor, but when I tackled him, he plunged the knife right into my back. But that was the only good hit he got on me. I managed to get him on the floor, and after that, I started kicking his head ferociously. I don't know how I managed to do it, but he was on the ground seemingly unconscious, and I was standing there. I could feel the blood flowing down my back, and I got back into the back seat of my car and yelled at my girlfriend to drive me to the nearest hospital. I was questioned a few days later at the hospital about what had happened. I guess the police showed up after we had left and found Joe still there unconscious. He was in a coma, and the police didn't know what to think. Once they got mine and my girlfriend's version of the story, they seemed to believe it, and so that was that. I don't know when or if Joe will ever wake up from that coma. And honestly, after he almost killed me, I kinda hope he doesn't. That was an extremely traumatic experience for me and my girlfriend. The good news about the situation is that I can tell people that I put someone in a coma once, and if they don't listen to me, they're next.
I got the night shift at McDonald's. I had to start it. I had been living through the foster homes for most of my life, and some were good, but some were really bad. They were messy, and sometimes a lot of them were straight up abusive, and it was a system that I wanted to get out of. I wasn't going to spend my days living in a house that probably doesn't want me, so I decided to fend for myself. I was going to be 18 in a few months. That would mean I would be out in the world without any safety net. So I was training myself to the real horrors of the world from when I was 15. And that is when I got the night shift at the McDonald's. I thought the best way to learn about all these horror would night. Then the weirdest of creatures all tread to do all kind of sinister things. The first month working there was pretty cool. The sinister element that I exaggeratingly thought of wasn't really there. It was mostly sketchy people and characters looking odd and lurking in the dark alleyways, smoking and drinking. But nothing ever happened that could be said sinister. I waited all night. I was doing less of the work that I was giving and lurking more outwardly to the windows in hopes that something nasty would happen and I would get to experience it and know about it. I was naive in the approach of it, all like a kid excited by all the anticipation. I was almost every moment on an alert, trying to look out for trouble. One day, one of the men who was a regular customer to this McDonald's joint said, "Boy, you always look out in those alleyways from the window. Why are you doing that?" And I told him, "I'm just looking for trouble. I want to experience the rush." And he said, "Oh, you a kid right now. You don't look for trouble. Trouble finds you. And then it won't be the rush you feel, but shock and pain. Trouble is nasty and unpredictable like that." I looked at the old man and took in his words. He wasn't wrong about that. I was doing my usual day shift when Miguel, who was a regular too, came in and greeted me. "What's up, homeboy? What we cooking today? Can I get them nuggets and that OG Big Mac?" He was with a girl, and his arm was around her waist. She was a curvy woman, and his hands were busy caressing her curves. And then he looked at me, noticing his girl, and he said, "That's right, G, you can look at her. She fine as hell." And I smiled at him, and he knew that I was harmless. And then he started kissing her in front of the counter. The McDonald's only had them two and the old man in today, so it was just me and the kitchen crew, and the old man and Miguel and his girl. It was very quiet there, and only noise that was heard was the aggressive kissing noises of Miguel and his girl. I called in the order of the old man, and he took the order and sat down on the table, and he said, "Can I get some more of the Szechuan hot sauce, boy?" And I replied wittingly, "Seems like you are the one looking for trouble, huh?" The old man laughed, and he took the sauce and sat on the very seat he was at. Then a few minutes and Miguel's order was ready, but he just won't buzz. They had been kissing for 10 minutes now, and then I said the only thing he ever called me was I looked at him and called him, "Yo, Miguel, my G, your order is ready." Miguel was smiling as he came over to pick up the order, and we clicked fingers and they all sat down enjoying their meal. Miguel with his girl, the old man with his newspaper. The kitchen staff was working on the inside, and I was standing alone on the counter, thinking of scenarios. And suddenly, somebody walked through the door, and then two other followed. It was a moment of rush, and I realized what is going on. The old man dropped his burger and looked at me, and it seemed like he was trying to talk to me with his eyes, telling me, "Boy, the trouble found you." The three men came in with a shotgun, hurling it in the air, and took 2 shots in the window and said, "Act smart, you die. Do as you're told." One of the men, probably the boss, came towards me and handed me a bag and said, "Drop in all the cash in here." And I replied, "The bag is too big." He looked confused and said, "The hell you said? You just do as you're told." So I did. I took the cash and dropped all of it in his bag. I knew it was too light and the bag still had space, so instead of all the money, I dropped in paper napkins in his bag. I filled it with paper napkins and tied the bag before handing it to him. He looked at me and said, "All right, now get us 3 Big Macs and 2 cold ones." I replied, "We don't have beer, sir." He looked at me and said, "Coke will do." And I got their order ready and very calmly said, "Your order is ready." And at this point, they were circling around Miguel and his girl. I took their order and went to their table and said, "Sir, your order is ready." And the man said, "What are you waiting for? A thank you note? Get out of my face, asshole." He nudged me away as his hand was caressing Miguel's girlfriend. And then from the distance I said, "Sir, your order has been done for go. You can take your order, it is packed." I guess the man was angry and annoyed by me intruding him and his boys trying to molest that girl. The man jumped forward, forgetting about Miguel, and took his shotgun and placed it right in between my eyes. "Would it be worth dying for McDonald's? Tell me, asshole." And then I said, "I've made your order for go. The store a block down has called in the police. They heard the shotguns. So if you leave right now, you can make it out without chase with all that cash and a nice McDonald's meal. I've also put the Happy Meal toy in." He looked at me, and I guess he was intimidated by the calmness he could see in my eyes, like I was the no bullshit guy. And he calmed down, propped his gun, looked at his boys and said, "All right, let's scoot. We're done here, boys. Let's go." They left. I was calm and chill. The old man looked at me and said, "You either have massive balls or you just a psychopath." Miguel looked at me and appreciated me through his eyes. I comforted his girlfriend, got her the nice hot beverage we made in the kitchen, and her next meal was on us. The old man looked at me and said, "Boy, trouble got nothing on you." He looked at the cash register and paid me a tip. I returned to it. "Go on, take it. You just got robbed." I smiled at him and said, "The store got robbed. I am fine." They all definitely not forgetting the night at the McDonald's, and neither will those 2 idiots who think there's money in their bag. At least they will have enough napkins to wipe their ass in jail. The owner never understood why I left even after hailing a hero and being promoted. Well, you see, When I was filling the bag of the thieves with napkins, I filled another envelope with all the cash. So the reality of the trouble was that the burglars got away with the napkins, while I got away with all the cash. That was just a little heist that I pulled off in McDonald's when I was 15. I have a lot of stories about such hustles. I am 30 now, almost 15 years from my first hustle, the hustle at McDonald's. I got $2,500 from it. And now the new hustle that I am doing will cash me in $25 million. So yes, if trouble is looking for me, tell it I'm on an island on the coast of Greece.